Hopefully that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hayward Gallery. I'm Ralph Rugoff. I'm the director of the gallery. And of course, I'm here with the artist we're showing in the Hayward right now, Hiroshi Sugimoto. It's a great pleasure to have you here tonight, Sugimoto-san, and to have this talk in this unusually intimate setting in the gallery, surrounded by these incredible optics pictures. So I hope everyone in the audience just absorbs that a little bit as we're talking up here. And we'll talk for about 40 minutes or so, and then we'll take questions from the audience. So if you are thinking about something, hold on to that question. We'll get to it. One thing I was very impressed by was when your very first series of pictures that you made, the diorama series,
Yes.
that you said when you first encountered these dioramas in the American Museum of Natural History in New York, you felt that they almost overwhelmed by the kind of sense of the precariousness of existence that these dioramas seem to embody.
Right.
And was that what drew you to photograph them?
Well, I used to have a kind of hallucinogenic vision all the time, very from the childhood. And I was wondering, I don't feel the solid physical presence. I'm always wondering whether this world actually exists or not, or this is just a phenomenon of mind and looking something like a projected movie-like images. So I didn't feel the kind of confident solidness of the world. So when I saw this diorama, this is exactly what I've been thinking or to seeing the world. Everything is dead, but look real. So if I am able to make this scene, that scene, look like alive, then I can explain my problem in my mind. This is the way I see it. This is the proof. The vision that you were looking at is actually it's all dead. But people think, seeing it
You have
as
an illusion
as an
that it's
illusion.
alive.
The world is an illusion. So, but this is a very problematic mentality. So I need to, prove my illusion. It's not an illusion. World is actually exist. So probably this is a kind of mental therapy for me to make it look like alive. Then I may be able to feel the world is actually live and exist.
So by making something that wasn't alive look alive, that could
Yes.
confirm your vision that the world actually was alive. All
Yes.
right.
So
Not everyone might have reached the same conclusion. But I was,
still feel kind of fakeness of the surface of this world.
yes.
Yes.
But it's interesting that you as a photographer had that approach because just historically people have linked photography to, I mean, Susan Sontag famously called photographs memento mori.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
right? Every photograph captures a vanished moment that can never be recovered. So it's like a memorial. And Roland Barthes wrote about the photograph is deeply connected to ideas of death.
Yes. So in that theory, thinking about the dead. So I'm actually photographing the dead. scene.
Yes.
Yes.
And the funny thing about photography is that because of its stillness,
Yes.
dead things and living things, the difference is kind of evened out. Everybody looks like a stiff in a photograph. But
Yes.
you made this decision from the beginning to work with black and white film
Yes.
and with a very traditional camera,
Yes.
with using technology really that almost from the late 19th century or early 20th century.
Yes. Right.
Why did you take that approach? And
Well, during the study 2 years in California at the Art Center College of Art, and this is a kind of training school. It's not the academic study school at all. So they try to make the kids to be a professional photographer. So, and then I was given a series of the books by Ansel Adams, and then I look at Ansel Adams' quality of the print, and then I decided, okay, I studied this, and then I will reach myself as a craftsmanship to be fitted to same level as Ansel Adams. And fortunately, usually the photographer tried to hide his technique and especially mixture ratio of the chemicals. But he just printed all his trial, especially developer. So I found out, I tested all the chemicals, and I find out D15 is the number of the chemicals, and this is the best for me. Well, conceptually, I don't owe anything to Ansel Adams. He's a beautiful nature photographer, but the quality of the prints, I owe him a lot.
But it's interesting because in the mid-'70s, when you were just starting out, that was a moment when a lot of photographers for the first time were turning to color photography.
Yes.
And color photography, people like Walker Evans had always been very snobby about color photography as being vulgar. But you went in the opposite direction.
Yes, because I found the quality of the Ansel, especially the tonality from pitch black to pitch white. And there's a numbers of layers of a beautiful grayness. And instead of, for a color, you don't have much control. You just take a picture and then send it to what you process yourself by E6 usually. But it's not so much controllable. It just comes out. And technically, the black and white is much more difficult to reach the level. So, yes, so I really get into the black and white, the beauty of the tonality.
And for the dioramas, it also seemed like black and white film made them seem more believable.
Yes. That's the nature of photography. Color photography is always, to me, fake colors. But in this room, I finally reached, it's not a fake.
Colors.
And people tend to believe that black and white as a nature, believability, and evidence, the police department, kept using the photography as evidence. And then black and white gives more reality. If it's color print, color itself is a fake colors, but the black and white represent in some way more reality.
No, I remember being shocked when I looked online for an image of the polar bear diorama in the Museum of Natural History. And the background is painted blue sky.
Yes.
The bear is almost yellow. And it looks like this incredibly garish image, which is totally unbelievable. But in your photograph, it looks, what I would say is on the edge of believability, where I'm no longer sure.
Yeah, that's a problem that people tend to believe. And wow, you are so brave. You can bear.
That's exactly. Right next to the polar bear. Yes, no, I always like the story that there are people who think of you as a wildlife photographer.
Right. Yes.
But one of the
It's
things,
all impossible situation.
Yeah.
Attention for the animals, they are fighting each other. If I were there, I would be the target to be attacked. So usually my answer is, yes, I'm be able to be an invisible photographer, invisible man, and then having a camera.
and the diorama is a weird kind of multimedia form of installation, right? Because it
Yes.
involves painting, sculpture, and then in the middle of it is this real animal
Yes.
that
Stuffed.
once was alive and now is stuffed. So it has a kind of perverse quality to it. It's a weird mix of things, and your photographs almost echo that because you're not really sure what you're looking at.
Yes.
Some of them, the painterly aspect of the diorama is
Yes.
stronger.
Yes.
You know, I think of
There
the
are like a 4 or 5 painter hired and involved. And under the WPA project in the 1920s, they were sent to Africa, with the scenes of Africa. And the painter painted the scenery. Also, the photographer was sent, photographed, and then animals captured and then stuffed, and then came back. Everybody worked together. So it is a very interesting process. And the artists, they were sent by WPA project. They try to spend as much of time as possible. So the quality gets very high. And so when they return to the city, they have no job to do. So
you've done a lot of research into the early history of photography and
Yes.
also the prehistory of photography. And you've written about how, it's very strangely, the French inventor of photography, Daguerre,
Charles Daguerre.
before he was making photographs, was making dioramas, which in Paris were these great theatrical
Yes.
displays.
At those times, the common people cannot go travel, so he made a beautiful set of the Alps, and then special lighting, and then even the sound effect. So when you enter his dioramas, as if you were by the Himalaya, not the Himalayan, the Alps mountains with beautiful scenery. So that's before the invention of his photography.
Some of the early creators of dioramas in the American Museum of Natural History also wrote about this desire to transport people to another world.
Right.
Do you feel your photographs do that also in some way, that they transport us?
So yeah, to a kind of fantasy world.
Yeah.
Yes. So my theater series, it's actually the screen's white light coming out. It's actually only exists in my camera. You just cannot see it by your eye, but only I let them, shine by itself. So what's the perception of the human being, and what's the difference of perception of my camera? I imagined I created this image, and then I set my camera to let it happen through my camera. So I wonder whether this is a reality exists or it's just my inner vision.
It's interesting because those amazing pictures of the theaters, they seem to do two different things to me. Because in one, I think, okay, you studied dialectical materialism when you were younger in Japan. And this is a vision of a movie theater where you've removed all the fantasy, all the images of the story in the movie, and instead we're looking at a screen, and then you notice the architecture.
Yes.
Very intensely, which normally you go to see a movie, you're not looking at the seats and the theater design.
You cannot see the interiors of a theater.
Yeah.
I automatically adjusted eyes apertures to be able to see the movie screens. So I usually step into the movie theater. What I do is hide I have a board like this, and then watch the entire movie and hiding my eyes. Then my eyes start seeing the detail. And then I cannot use the light meter, of course. So what I have to decide is how bright this movie is. So it's like dark movies.
If you had a film noir.
Yes, film noir is very terrible.
Yeah.
And the occult movie, very dark.
How about Disney?
Disney is average.
Average. Okay.
Yeah. But the so-called Italian macaroni western, or how
Spaghetti westerns.
Spaghetti western, very bright.
Really?
Mostly shot in outside.
Yes. Bright desert sun.
Right. That's how I decide the aperture. Yes. But usually it's all usually wide open.
So on the one hand, I see these pictures where you really experience the material character of the movie theater in a way that you normally never do. But then also this white screen that's glowing, almost like a spiritual light of some kind, right? It's like some vessel of pure light is beckoning you into the screen. And the theater, it looks like everyone's been sucked out of the theater. There's another kind of fantasy dimension also to the image that you've created. And there's a sense of both the presence of this bright screen, but it also feels like an absence.
Right. Well, the early stage, I didn't have power to ask people to be out of my scenes, of course. So 76, 77, there's a few people in my picture. And then like a Radio City Hall, this is like 4,500 seats. And so many people, there's a light here and there, because the people used to smoke in the theater. It's like the matches, it shows up. But later on, I was able to, probably the recommendation letter from John Shakowski, MoMA, he was the museum curator, photography curator.
Yes.
He made a beautiful letter, introduction letter to the many movie companies. And then I was able to sometimes close up the theater, sometimes just ask people to sit in the back so that I don't have any people in there.
It's hard to imagine many New Yorkers happily moving to the back to accommodate a photographer.
But usually the theater is half empty or very, the daytime.
Yeah.
And particularly, most of the movies B class or B minus movie.
Yes.
And then recently I researched all the movie, checked the date, 1976, and checked the theater and database, and I discovered, well, I don't even remember the name of the theater because I don't watch the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, right from the beginning with these two bodies of work, you were working in series,
Yes.
which is quite different from what a lot of photographers work.
Right. Well, Hiram Becher was
Yes.
already active, and then I joined the Southbank Gallery, and Hira was there.
So were they an influence on you in terms of working in as series?
Not the theoretical, repeating the same images. I just found myself there, but so it just happened to be the similar method, but she used the 5x7 box camera,
Yeah.
and I use 8x10. So I was twice, 4 times bigger than negative.
Yes.
But amazing that she was able to control the gray tone of the sky.
Yes.
I was always wondering how she could be able to do it.
I think they only photographed on gray days.
Right.
Yeah. But besides the Beckers, was there also conceptual artists tended to do things in series?
Yes.
Was that an influence?
I didn't pay much attention, but I just happened to be the same gallery and the same type. She was like ahead of my time. She was already recognized as a contemporary artist and a conceptual artist. So I thought, well, there might be a chance for me, some space to get in. And so, yes, I was very happy to have her in the same house, same gallery. Yes.
But I think also working in a series makes sense when your work is really coming out of an idea,
Yes.
a larger project, rather than just looking for an image.
Right. Usually the photographer hang your camera and go out and search for something to shoot. It's like hunting.
Yes.
But in my case, what I'm going to find is my inner state of my mind. And then I have this vision in my mind. Then go out and make it happen. My vision has to be realized outside of my mind. And then make it happen. And then as a proof, I photograph my inner visions, like movie screens. It's totally my conceptual inner visions.
Now, one thing about the Beckers was they would photograph industrial structures all over Germany, and they'd isolate them.
Right.
And they called some of their photographs found sculptures. So they were treating these buildings as if they were sculptural objects, found objects.
Yes, that's very much like a Duchampian kind of concept.
Yes, I think maybe that also because you also would find things,
Yes.
and then
Photography is basically ready-made.
Yes.
Everything. Yes.
and then you would also isolate them in a similar way.
Yes.
In that, say, your dioramas, you have no idea you're in a museum. You've just removed it from its context.
Right.
The wax figures, eventually you remove them from their settings for the portraits. And even the architecture pictures, a lot of them you've shot the building so you don't really see the urban context anymore.
Right.
And is this something you've done because then if we remove it from its everyday context, it's easier to strip away the ordinary meaning we associated with it and to open up
Yes.
how we can interpret it?
Yes. So, yeah. Well, all my photography is not the presentation of the reality. It's all kind of faked up.
Faked up. Well, it is very interesting that you made a lot of photographs early on, especially of representations.
Yes.
You know, you weren't photographing so-called real things, but things that were already represented.
So that's a double representation makes reverse the meaning sometimes.
Yes.
And then the human perception. So this is all my life studied through photography. I studied the nature of human perception. After I mounted this huge museum shows, and I have a chance to think back myself. What was my life? Yes. So, thank you for this chance.
Well, you know, it's remarkable because when we were installing the show, I was really struck. There was one day when you sat down near the theaters
Yes.
and you didn't move for almost 2 hours. And I came by and you said, it's magical. And I got a sense of this incredible sensitivity that you have and that you were re-experiencing what it was like to shoot these pictures, but also to experience them as images. And when I think of you going to the Museum of Natural History and feeling the precariousness of all existence, looking at these dioramas, when most people are maybe just thinking about a particular animal or what's for lunch, I have a sense that you're able to focus in a very deep way on things, and that do you think that's an important element in terms of contributing to your art?
Well, the detail, the concept of the detail as well. And
Yes.
then the human eyes just can focus on one point and out of focus as a background. But my camera was, F45, X64 craft, it used to be. I also applied this F64 with 8x10. Makes everything as sharp as possible, which human eyes cannot cannot see it. So I think the camera was invented to study of the human eyes, the lens and apertures we have, how do you call this, open and close, and then the nerve system behind it. So I think it works same as a human eye, but the one difference is camera has one eye, human
Yes.
has two eyes.
We have binocular vision.
Right. So we always measure the depth of the field. But the photography is usually single lens. So when I see the diagrams, first thing I did was just close my one eye and then see it. Then the perspective all of a sudden disappeared, and then turning into the photographic visions. But the people sees the two-dimensional photography with two eyes to bring it back the depth. So I found this nature of the perception, and then I applied to my study of diorama to bring it back, the dead to the life.
Now, also in the 1970s, when you were in New York, you really discovered the work of Marcel Duchamp, who you mentioned earlier.
Yes, was 77, 6. Yes, I made a trip to Philadelphia. At that time, the setting up this last piece of
Étant
Duchamp,
donné.
yeah, étant donné. Only like 5, 6 years later, so it wasn't so well known that time. But I was amazed. This is a hidden piece that he's been working for the last many years, and then there was diorama. So I was starting my dioramas, and then what Duchamp, the last piece, étant donné, is diorama. So I just convinced myself that I'm probably following his steps.
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, you're the only person I think I know working with photography who would cite Duchamp as a major influence, rather than another photographer or an image maker. And of course, one of the things that Duchamp is so well known for is the idea of his ready-mades, where he would take an ordinary object and represent it in a different context, where it lost its original meaning and became a kind of uncanny doppelganger of itself. It no longer, its meaning was put into question. And you have said that as a photographer, you feel sometimes that you're stealing images from the world, and then you recontextualize them.
Right.
And open up a whole nother way that people can interpret them. Do you feel that's something you've stopped doing now that you're making work that's more like these optics?
Well, optics is probably representation of my illusion as well. Yeah. I think the painting is I think about the Roscoe painting when I was printing this, and I think that Roscoe's painting is also the representation of his mind and abstract painting, and I see some very high quality behind it. And I saw this blue painting at the fair today, but I didn't feel much.
Not the same connection.
Eve Klein, the painting I saw.
Yeah. That was
And
Eve
then-
Klein?
Huh?
Eve Klein.
Eve Klein. And there's some kind of a reflective material mixed with the paint that makes a kind of illusion. But the Roscoe painting, I feel it's not the illusion, it's some kind of presence of his inner mind. And I was confident that I can compete with Eve Klein, probably price-wise soon.
I mean, early photography was sometimes described as painting with light.
Yes, right.
And it feels like that's what you've done in this, with the works in this room. And do you feel, though, that there's still a strong difference between pictures like this that are made with a camera versus pictures that are made with paint?
Well, through this study of the optics, instead of the painters paint with a material as a paint, so it's a very two-dimensional. But I am the probably first photographer to photograph the light itself. The painter trying to represent the quality of the light with paint. I think there's a limit. But in my case, using the camera, this is a light-sensitive material film to try to photograph the original source of the light, the color. So it's only two layers of practice, but the painters have to rely onto the materialities of the paint itself. The paint color red is just a reflection of the white light, and then only red part reflect back to your eye. But photography, I'm photographing the color itself, it's not stopped by the paint. I can go through naturally with this light machine to study the light inside of the light itself. So I think it's one step less to represent.
It's interesting now, because if I'm looking at this painting right next to you, I see a kind of almost purple stripe above the green, but it's not actually in the print. I think it's an optical effect created by the proximity of the green and then the yellow bit and then the black.
Yes.
See that little, do you see that little purple?
Yes.
So that's something that painters often do, is they put colors next to each other, knowing they'll create a third color in your eye.
Yes. And if you keep looking at one color, then the color next to it automatically shows up in your sensitivity, in your mind. So I usually staring at the colors and wait for a few minutes till I see some other colors shows up. So it's very psychological. Yeah.
I mean, I think these have a feeling that when you're looking at them, because of the scale, that you can really be immersed in color. I think of this as the color therapy room. And you described something very interesting when you were making these at first, because you were using a SX70 Polaroid camera, and that you would go very close to the wall where the light for the prism was being projected.
Yeah, prism is about twice as big, triangular, and 2 meter high. And so I specially designed this space in Japan. The top floor of the building is facing east, so the best condition to receive the morning light. And I made about this size of the room, slightly smaller, all covered by Japanese white stucco. It's a beautiful surface. And so in the morning, especially in the winter, it just reflect back about the band of this big. And then I made a mirror to reflect again to bring this color band into the darker side of the room. And it's made it super clear and beautiful. And then I have my SF camera, about this much from red to purple, blue. So I'm just diving into the color. And I can be able to, probably I'm photographing only this much, the borderline between like yellow to purple or red to many range of colors. what you can see this, the black is the edge of the colors. I can turn the prism and I can bring the green to yellow band to the edge of the color band. And then, so that's fall into the white background, but actually the exposure difference, white stuck wall fall into the pitch dark black. So that's how I control.
No, it's funny because these are works that people who know Mark Rothko's paintings will definitely think of Rothko, but yet your initial inspiration maybe wasn't painting, but it was Isaac Newton.
Ah, yes. Isaac Newton, 1704. Optics, it's the first edition in English version I was able to purchase. I just happened to find it in the Sotheby's viewing room. I was looking for other antiques, but the next room was old book collections. And I was so amazed, wow, this can be purchased. It's very expensive, of course, but and then I
It's a
bought.
business expense.
Yes. And then it's amazing how he discovered, during the COVID time of 18th century, he was exiled to,
The plague.
at Prague, yes. Same kind of situation. And Urusov, that his hometown, he made his own prism and started studying the nature of the light. At the same time, he discovered the gravity theory, yes, watching the apple falling, and he discovered. So two major important discovery happened in that exile time.
So your photography, I mean, this is what I find one of the super interesting things about your work is you're having a dialogue with painting on the one hand, with optical science, with architecture. We have pictures downstairs of these mathematical models. You've really opened up the range of references that are in a photograph,
Yes.
even though they may not be visible. And with the seascapes, you actually had a show of your seascape pictures with the late Rothko paintings,
Yes.
which were very gray and black. And
That was his last year, and his painting turned into gray and black, kind of sad kind of feeling. And then, well, my seascapes black and white, so I think it's echoed each other. So I had a beautiful show in London at the Pace Gallery, and then Mark Roscoe's son, Christopher Roscoe, loved my seascape. So, well, we had a chance to make it happen. That was quite a successful show because my photographs look so cheap.
so, you know, in our exhibition catalog, we've got a very nice essay by a scholar named Jeffrey Batchin, who begins by saying that he thinks all of your work is about a search for origins, the origin of human consciousness, the sea, and the origin of life. And you're very interested in the origins of photography.
Yes.
And you bought some negatives by William Fox Talbot, right?
Yes.
That he never developed himself.
Right.
And you made prints of them.
Yes.
And in the lightning fields pictures, you also
I borrowed
back.
the concept of Fox Talbot and his friend Michael Faraday. And so they were together studying the static electricity. And when I visited Fox Talbot's studio, I thought I can be able to see many early photographic devices, but very few. And most of his study was really the pantograph generators and many interesting devices to make it studied electricity. So he was kind of unfortunate that the announcement of invention of photography, after that, he has to spend most of his time to protect his patent. There's many, he has to sue many people that using his technology discovery. The French instead, the Charles Daguerre, the state of France, bought a patent from Charles Daguerre and made it open to the public. So unfortunately, British government wasn't so.
They weren't into open source technology. With the seascapes, I know when you were a child, you've written about having this very impactful experience of seeing the sea at the end of a tunnel.
Right, yes.
But tonight we were talking about a different inspiration for the seascapes that was actually musical.
Yeah, after this show I mounted, and my memory flashed back to me. And what was that in the diorama time and seascapes time, theater time? And then I discovered only this time now, at the age of 75, there must be a musical experience behind my ideas. The seascapes, well, I started 1980, but I was thinking about how the water presence, water must be very important material. It's a very simple water. And yeah, I came to my idea as a crystal clear sky with sharp line as I experienced in my childhood. But in New York, and every night I was alone most of the time, and my habit of just asking myself, what if, kind of thing. So always I have some music running behind. And the seascapes time, that was a Mozart music, especially the concerto, piano concerto number 20. First movement is very, very dark and slow, and it just gave me a vision of like a waves is approaching to me. And then I had a clear vision of seascapes. So, well, thank you for this show. I just flashback memory came. Yeah, so I owe Mozart. I love Mozart music for a long time, from probably, yes, high school. Yes, I loved most. I listened to most of the Mozart. It has very mystical quality. You cannot estimate what's the next movement. All of a sudden, somewhere else in a heavenly, like the music to me, Beethoven's, I can easily estimate. Oh, next movement will be coming. Like, very logical music, and that kind of dialectic materialism, dialectic theory, right? But Mozart is coming from somewhere else, out of this world, and very spiritual. So I envy Mozart. I wanted to be a Mozart-like artist. And then I tried to do it with the photography. Yes.
Well, you've done so many things in your life, Sugimoto-san, between architecture, being an artistic director for performing arts productions.
Right.
You've written a cookbook. You've written a book criticizing museum architecture, which hopefully the Hayward will not appear in the next version. You also said there was another song.
And also, so Dioramas, the first polar bear, when I envisioned that visions, after I seeing the natural history setting. And then that night was probably the John Lennon's Imagine was influencing me. And then recently I thought, wow, this is magical music, but probably Yoko Ono was involved. to make this poetic lyrics. And probably the concept of Buddhism, especially Heart Sutra, presenting the concept of the emptiness. And it goes, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. This is a key essential concept of Buddhistic kind of thinking. And then probably Yoko Ono mentioned this concept of emptiness to John Lennon. And then probably he came to this lyrics under influence of this concept of emptiness. And then, well, so this, it starts like, imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us, only sky. This is exactly the representation of emptiness. And imagine no possession. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of men. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will be lived as one. This is beautiful lyrics and probably the Zen concept or emptiness concept represented. So this is emptiness concept, just the lifelike animals, polar bears. It's empty. It's just a surface. That's what the world consisted from. So musical inspiration is very important.
And the other day you were singing Let It Be in the gallery. Was that
The
also
Let It
triggered
Be
by
is another one that says last album of Beatles. And then the theater series, yes, that was the Let It Be, behind my scene. Especially the one sentence here, yes, no, this one here. And when the night is cloudy, there is still light shines on me. Shining through tomorrow, let it be. 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 There will be an answer. Let it be. Oh, this was the answer for me. I saw the visions of the
shining light.
Shining light. So.
Thank you. We have time for a few questions. Thank you so much. Do we have microphones for the questions? Okay, so if you've got a question, okay, here's one right here. If you just can wait until the microphone comes over.
Thank you very much for a very interesting talk. I'm interested to know whether you approach when you present exhibitions and also your works, do you have a different approach depending on whether you're showing in Japan or when you're showing in the West? And if so, what are the differences if it's more than one?
Well, I didn't get it.
When you're approaching thinking about how you're going to make an exhibition, do you think differently if it's an exhibition in Japan versus in the West?
Well, every show I'm trying to be as unique as possible, but this is the first time for me to show only the photography. I have many other things to do now, but most of my Japanese show now, one show is going on in Tokyo, was a mixture of my collection of antiquities with my art, photography, including photography. So I think this is a very rare chance for me to see only photography this time. But I'm trying to be as unique show as possible, every show, not only in Japan or outside of Japan. So, well, for example, Pareto Tokyo show was quite different 4 or 5 years ago. That's the story I made, the 33 stories of how this world end. Very pessimistic, sad show. But here, I find the hope.
And that show had your own version of Duchamp's Étant donné, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another question? All right, they're letting us off easy tonight. Oh, one in the front, okay.
How do you see the relationship between art and science?
Art and science. It's a very good question. Well, I think it's share the same origins, the same source. You know, how human mind, consciousness came to our mind, and then, well, we start painting outside scene to the cave painting, and then at the same time, our mind starts studying where the direction of the sunrise and setting and finding out the 1 year is 365 days. So I think at the early state of human mind, we studied scientific mind and artistic mind. But somehow it's separated, probably very late, I think. So in my study, I'm trying to reach to the earliest human mind. And when the science and art wasn't separated, and naturally, yes, I should be a scientist. And so at the same time, I'm an artist, and Isaac Newton's book I studied, I tried to remake the same experience. Michael Faraday's experience, I repeated his experience. And then I departed from that state. And then using my camera itself is a science. So use the science to make people, well, feel something artistic and vision of mind. So to me, it's the same practice.
Question over here?
So how much you travel for your work, and if, for example, with the theatres and the seascapes, if there was a list of places you wanted to go, and if there's still a bucket list, or if those series have ended.
Well, so every series I never say this is it, this is over. This is a lifetime experience. For example, the seascapes. I am still shooting the seascape, but I'm slowing down because the sea itself is changing. I'm trying to go as far place as possible, remote, very remote from the civilization. Otherwise, I cannot see the primordial visions of the sea. But even I return to the same spot now, the hotels there, the people swimming. And so I established my own art foundation in Odawara, 1 hour from Tokyo, facing the beautiful ocean. But still, every day fishermen is out, but only 1 day a year, January 1st, no activities at all. So that's the only chance. One day a year, I photograph the seascapes from my own spot. And theaters, probably, I'm at the age of 75, and it's no longer possible to carry heavy-duty 8x10 camera. So I think I was able to photograph the abandoned theater. And I look at myself, I loved it. So probably, if you give me an idea of where to go, I may go.
You've got an idea. All right, one more question.
Hi, I wonder if you take photographs on daily basis, like without using a proper camera, and if you do, how do you see them in relationships in relation with your photographic works?
Well, for example, my writing field you're talking about, I have, yes, no camera. So I don't know whether it can be called photography or not, but
Or do you take photographs in a casual way, like with your phone, or?
casual way, well, nothing is casual to me.
Okay. All right, that was a quick.
Well, iPhone I take, of
You
course.
do take iPhone
Yes,
pictures.
yes. I have to, I have to memorize many things. This is my note, but that's my art.
Yes.
Well,
Okay, that was a quick one. So one last question over here.
Thank you very much. May I ask for the younger or emerging artists, do you have any suggestion to the young artists to say anything that can do or not do as a suggestion? Thank you.
well, don't copy me. It's very hard to. But at least you can try and see. Well, new generation have to represent the new reality of the world, and yes, I expect something new expression, which I can admire or not. I don't know, but well, you have to be unique. Yes, but you can be also influenced by someone, like I influenced by Marcel Duchamp. Yes. So yeah, the best word that Marcel Duchamp said was, "I never be starved, but I'm lucky, so lucky. I didn't become rich." Yes, that's a very good word. Yes.
He was good at finding rich wives, though, which definitely helps. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. And I hope if you haven't seen it already, you'll come back and see this exhibition during the day when this room is filled with light. And thank you so much, Sugimoto-san, for.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.